Hey Leo rising, Aquarius a descendant, Leo ascendant, excuse me. Still mid-morning, Leo. I just did Gemini. I always find the person that comes before you to give you some information, but I think it would more depend if, well, it's up to you. You decide, Leo. I want to mention before we begin, number one, the foundation of this reading is based off of ancient astrology where Taurus rules the first house. I guess it always has in a kind of way as far as I can find, and it just makes all the sense to begin with Venus, which is really beautiful. It rules the heart, and Leo, you rule the heart, which would be a very nice combination, right? So, secondly and lastly, before we begin, I made a cup of coffee before your reading, and I was just pouring it, and then all of a sudden I could kind of feel the warmth of the burner, but then all of a sudden I was like, that's too warm. And I turned around and my scarf was on fire and it burnt all the hair on my arm. And I just got these tattoos and it even burnt the wheat. So we're going to look at Saturn here, your sixth house of debt, right? Makes sense. So point is that you're a fire sign. And I think, I would presume with this example, that you burnt yourself. You know what I mean? No one else did that to me. I did that myself. And so there's something you have to learn about that, about paying attention, right? Not so much so that you're so calculated that life isn't fun anymore, right? But that you're just more aware of what you're interacting with, how close you are to things, energetically connected to them, and make sure again that you don't get burnt, because or most importantly, eventually you don't want to get burnt, right? And you can do that. But while it's happened and when it has happened, it's very important for you to take that as something to teach you. I feel like this position you would very much benefit from asking yourself, I mean, everybody can, but I think with you, this is one of the most important is like, what can I learn from this situation where I just got burnt, right? Like even just little things like that, like why is it that just happened, right? And of course we can do this for bigger things and other people we're involved with, and especially whoever you end up loving and like connecting your heart to, because I know that you have like a huge heart. You know what I mean? It's enormous. It's enormous. And I would say most of you are very creative. There's some sort of it's actually starting to drive me crazy. It worked for Gemini. Maybe it was some sort of helmet. I don't know. But you're creative. I would sense most of you, yeah, you're probably very creative. I feel like you have a lot of really interesting ideas. And it's also, I see that it's also a very good way for you to get out some deeper emotions, some subconscious sort of expression. Creative expression would be extremely helpful. It's like you being able to say something without saying it. And you're also, whatever it is that you're displaying in the end game on the outside is, you know, it's a conversation, but it's not overly intentional. It just is. And it's connected and it's open. So there's a fluidity there. You know what I mean? Excuse the slurping. It's just hot and the mic is sensitive. I know you don't care actually. So. All right. I see your relationship with your mother could have been on and off. She could have been one of those mums that like thinks that she knows everything. like kind of stubborn. Um, I see you know how to keep a secret too. You're trustworthy, right? Especially to your friends. It's like your friends will probably tell you, even just people sometimes, but I feel like your friends will like reveal things to you, you know, that they may not reveal to other people about, especially about how they feel and like what's in their heart. You know, it could be in their own way, but it's like it's specific to you, especially when it comes to deep feelings. It's like people feel comfortable with you, like you wouldn't judge them, which is really nice. But I see also that this also relates to you. Maybe you judged yourself or you were judged for a while. I would say for most of you until your, early mid 30s, there was some sort of judgment being had to teach you about how not to burn yourself, what is playing with fire. You know what I mean? Like, a Scorpio ruling your fourth house, it's an uncomfortable and deep place for Scorpio to be, you know. Your home life could have shifted a lot growing up. With all signs, it's possible. But this could also represent like sexual abuse too, like through the home or through the family or in the family in some kind of way. There's something inappropriate about it. It wasn't as gentle as you wanted it to be, right? Like your feelings were tested hardcore. And I guess it depends where your moon is and how it's aspected, etc. But it was there to teach you about your own. It's a big soul lesson, is the point with, I guess, Leo ascendant, Aquarius descendant, Taurus, Scorpio, MC, IC, you know? It's that because these are the 4 points. You know, this is what holds it together, what makes it true. So I guess you have to figure out a lot about what the truth is, learning how to speak your own truth, learning how to speak from your own heart, not relying on other people for love, not trying to convince anyone or like because I think that once you love too, it's like you're fixed on it. You know what I mean? It's harder for you until you find love in yourself, in God, in nature. Like and I was just telling Gemini, like, and everyone's sort of had this, which is interesting, but it matches up. And this goes to the fire. It could be maybe because of things earlier on in life, too much exposure to certain things or something like that. It could be drugs, alcohol, sex, like whatever. It's pain, you know. You could be attracted to that instantly, right? It's like the flame, like the moth to the flame, you know. But again, with a little bit of awareness, that awareness grows. And so you know where you are and you know what's around you and you know whether you want to interact with that or how close you want to be, etc. You know, like, Hawk, good. It's like you have to figure out how to follow you have to figure out how to be smarter about who you pick for friends. That's a big lesson. This goes back to the heart, the self, God, etc. Because you could end up having a kid with someone that you don't, that makes it difficult to parent with. Although sometimes Scorpio on, it depends where it is on the IC, but it can also equal certain deformities within the sexual organs. So you could end up having like, being sterile or just having like your period is like really irregular. And so it makes it more difficult. Like there's some sort of dysfunction in the area. It depends. It's not for everyone. Again, it depends on the degree of the, where it is on the IC, but, and actually, for some of you, it would almost be like if you did end up having a child, it would be like a miracle baby. Like it would be like you've tried for a long time and then you have it, or something like that. If it does happen, when this has happened, I guess most babies are surprises, but there's something extra about it here. This is very interesting and specific, but I feel like Gemini and Pisces would not be people to necessarily have, it would be more difficult to have kids with them or to date them. Even children of those signs, maybe even friends, could be, it's just a little bit like there's something off about it. Okay? There's something a little off about it. But I see Sagittarius, Virgo. I keep looking up at Aquarius. But that's your descendant too, so I'm not sure. I would say any Aquariuses you end up in a relationship with, friend, lover, whatever, coworker, it definitely is people that you knew before. Like you totally knew them before. I would, and I did see it like where it was flipped, where like you could do, it doesn't matter where Aquarius is for them, but I would sense it would be somewhere sort of prominent, like your sun, your moon, ascendant, etc. Let's see here. I see when it comes to your job, you're kind of an introvert, right? Even though you're Leo in the first house. So people probably see you bigger than you are because your heart's so big. Like you have a bigger energy than your actual body, right? It's interesting. Oh, and I see where you get in trouble sometimes, or where you used to get, I heard kicked in the face for situations. It's because you were testing a situation and being like, yeah, I'm big and like I can handle that. Like you were going off of, it's like whenever you try to prove yourself in some kind of way for other people, it doesn't do it. Okay, so we're talking about work, right? So, it probably would be something where you would be speaking. right? Taurus up here in the 10th house probably would be using your throat somehow, some way, right? Your vocal cords. I forget who else had this, but maybe Virgo rising, but where you would be giving information, like sharing some sort of knowledge with people. Sharing how it is that you see the world, right? Like, some of you could be I feel like you could be a teacher. Most of you probably wear glasses, or you should, even if you don't, but you know, reading glasses or something. You may be a very interesting looking person. Like, say you work at a company, it's like you don't know that you're beautiful, but people know that you're beautiful. And you actually may have a lot of jobs, because again, you're an introvert at the heart of it. Like in your home space, you're an introvert, right? So maybe some of you could work at home. Like your work should actually be a little bit secretive, or you feel that way. Like something about it, like you don't want your work to define you. You don't want your money to define you. You know what I mean? It's like, not that you're keeping any secrets exactly to be like, ooh, I'm keeping a secret, but it's just like, that's not the point. Like and also I heard that's none of your business, right? So there could be something where you prefer privacy. Privacy is very important to you. Leo Ascendant, Aquarius Descendant. I also see your bedroom is very private also. It should be. And maybe when it's not, right? Because this is where we like derobe and like sleep and whatever. It's bisexual, right? It's an intimate place. And I think you have to learn, I see that you have to learn boundaries this time. Like learning to speak your boundaries before you start investing your heart into something in totality. And you really need to hear what the other people are saying so that you don't end up with the same people that you did before, right? I see most of you have dreams like it's a movie. Like it's so... I mean, it would depend on your moon too, but I think just Cancer ruling that 12th house is it's, you know, they rule the moon and it's sleep. So this is probably, but I would also say in the beginning, right, until we come to this, you come to this other understanding in yourself and about life, and you really got to figure out God to yourself, right? Like, not just in your head, but in your heart, right? Whatever this external power or creator is, it's necessary, because until that happens, you'll sort of be at war with your own feelings. You'll be at war with your own internal waters. It's like you're always out to sea, and it's always like crashing around, and it's really exhausting. And you could definitely have nightmares until you figure certain things out. I would say if that's still happening, or if you have a child like this, amethyst wrapped in a little bit of copper, you can just do it yourself. You could even just use an amethyst stone, but having it as a necklace and tied to a space where it sits at your heart, this is very helpful. And to put an intention while you're holding it, you state that the dream world cannot hurt you. Because what's interesting is that it kind of can in this position. Again, it depends where your moon is, but like I feel like it still could to a varying degree. For instance, they say that Cancer in the 12th house or Leo ascendant shouldn't be hypnotized, because they can actually have like, it's because it's the feeling, it's your feelings in this unknown space, and it's the past lives, and it's like a tunnel portal, and it's going so fast to this other place that could actually like really affect you. Scorpio also being in your fourth house, it's a big deal. All your, it's interesting too, for those of you who are learning, or just to kind of put it together, anyone who has oh, this is interesting. I was going to combine the two. Okay. So if we take the astrology where Aries is the first house, if someone has a fire, because it still exists, so that means it still has importance to some, we can learn from it. Of course, we can learn from anything. But with Aries ruling the first, if you're a fire ascendant, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, then all your houses match up elementally, right? Fire is fire, water is water, air is air, etc. Although technically there is no water in the chart, and that's another story. Feel free to figure that one out. So, but if we look at it in ways of ancient astrology, if someone has an earth rising, right? Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, then they elementally actually match up, which makes them probably a pretty calm person. But it would depend, like an earth trine or a fire trine, right? Which they all technically, fascinating. I don't know why we're going here, Leo. But the point is that, let's see. What do we want to look at? Let's look at your 8th house. So your feet will show you whether you are learning the lesson or not. Like if your feet are bad, if your feet are like always dirty, or it's just they're rotten, or there's things wrong with them. There's a lot of cuts or something like that. Your ankles are swollen, things of this nature. It means you're not digesting something. It means you're not learning the lesson. And you'll probably see it in your dreams anyway. You know what I mean? Or if you did some subconscious, kind of unconscious sort of writing, you would also be able to kind of pick it up. I see that being in water also, like soaking your feet, taking baths, going swimming would be very beneficial to you and your own emotional well-being, okay? It'll ground you. It'll put you back in this heart space. It will expand your forgiveness. Being in water. I feel like most of you should probably be baptized, even if that's, honestly, I baptize myself every time I go in the river or the lake, the pool, even. You know what I mean? And so maybe for some of you, you don't shower every day, or you could not. That's interesting. Or when you do bathe and in water or drink water, like I feel like you should have this slow down moment where you come into the present moment and you let yourself know, like, I am about to cleanse myself, like replenish myself with this water, how sacred those waters are. Because I guess I'll explain to you what I meant with there's no water in the chart. So if you take the traditional planets, the traditional planet, which means heavenly body, right? We have Venus is Taurus, right? Mercury is Gemini, then the moon and the sun. These are luminaries. They're not a technical planet. Then we have, right, Virgo is in Mercury, and then Libra is Venus. So see how these match, right? And then we have Scorpio is Mars, and then Sagittarius is Jupiter, Saturn, Capricorn is Saturn, Aquarius is Saturn, Pisces is Jupiter, and Aries is Mars. So we have Earth. Well, my friend Danielle and I we sorted on the fact that Venus is Earth, especially because it starts with Taurus, right? So we have Earth, air, luminary, air, Earth, fire, earth, fire. Oh, actually, excuse me. Maybe it could be. Thanks for that, Leo. This is creative. Just a second. I do want to sit on that more. Like, okay, what do you think? Do you think that Venus is earth or air? Right, because to me, I think initially I thought it was air, but that was more because of Libra in a sense. Right, because it would be the precession or the further down the line, right? Like Virgo would be Mercury to Gemini. So what do you think? And the point being is that there's no water, right? There's no water. And so therefore the water is the water in the earth, right? It's the lakes, it's the rivers, it's the oceans, etc. It's the springs. It's also the water inside of our body, because just like the earth, they tell us all the time the magic of it, right? Whatever the percentage is, 70-30, but like if the earth has 70% water and we have 70% water, it means we are the earth, right? And it also means that we're supposed to respect and see these waters as sacred. Again, the physical world that we interact with and that replenishes and cleanses us, but also knowing that we need to do that internally, emotionally. You know what I mean? I see that your friends should be open to talking about all different kinds of topics. You need to be able to like. It's good to disagree with people in a kind of way, like speak your opinion and be comfortable about that, right? I see when your knees are sore, your joints are sore, you're working through certain debts that you're paying also, right? Especially when it comes to like your relationship to others and to your family. Um, Let me see. If you do have a child like this, I also see to make sure that you ask them. You know what's interesting is I haven't really talked about children at all. Good. Thank you, Leo. This is very creative and open-minded. I appreciate that. Maybe this is how you kind of work, right? Even while you're doing something, you can be expanding in these other ways while this other thing is going on, right? Um, but I see that it's really important, I guess even with you, but especially with children, because if we started early, then we wouldn't really have to have a lot of the conversations we're having now with adults. You know what I mean? Or at least it could happen a lot earlier. But I see it's important to be like, why did you do that? Like, uh, what was it that, and also to ask them how they feel. Because Scorpio is in the house of feelings, and it may be very hard, it may be a little bit repressed for them to express it. It would depend on the moon too, but it's like their feelings are kind of hidden, and there's obviously really, really deep feelings that need to be expressed, like deep feelings in the heart, even. I also see the more forgiving you are as a person, like the more that you're working through forgiving and forgetting, the better your skin is. okay? You also hold less like water weight around your belly when that's the case, right? You won't be as there would be less bloating and thing. If you're a little bit bloated, it's sort of expressing like, and even when you're having like, if you're going through your cycle or what have you, it's if your breasts are like super sore too, that's a part of like where it's expressing like there's something tense in there that needs to kind of come out, you know? Very interesting. These readings are fascinating. Let me see if I see anything else. Somebody else got this also, but you could become a little bit more traditional in your religious take as you become older. Or you'll just want to learn more about it. Like you'll reread the Bible, or you'll read the Quran, or like you'll study Buddhism, or whatever you're into. You will become more interested in God and religion as you become older. And the more you forgive and can say, not only say it out loud, but you know it in your heart, you know it in your head, you know it in your body, all of that. Because you know that you're safe and loved and protected, right? Which Scorpio in the 4th house definitely needs to learn that. Definitely. All right. Well, that's that. Leo ascendant, Aquarius descendant. Fascinating. I really like these. I highly suggest making yourself a pizza pie, chat. Love you. Peace.